first landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome to UFO Classified. I'm Erica Lukes. I was happy to be here with you on Friday evenings and seeing my family in chats. I really appreciate you getting here. I get messages from all over the world, especially after my TV shows air. I've got another TV show coming out in the next month. Actually, two new TV shows that I'll be on, and I will keep you posted on the dates. One is on Science Channel, and the other is on the Travel Channel. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. And as always, I have been busy doing personal research here with Utah, and then also looking into corruption and different types of things that take place in the UFO community. I mentioned last week, I opened the show with a rather long monologue, which isn't usually like me, but I read portions of a letter that was put out to the public, MUFON, The Inside Truth. This came out a little over a week ago and has had some pretty interesting repercussions. Philip Leech was working as a field investigator, among many other things, at MUFON. He, like many of us, dedicated his time, his money, and sacrifices time away from his family in order to educate people. And when we all get into this, and I know I could say this when I first had my sightings and I wanted to become involved, I turned to MUFON, not really understanding some of the inner workings. And after a considerable amount of work reestablishing Utah, which had been fractured after the firing of Elaine Douglass, and also working under Jan Harzan, sending out the email blast, the statistics reports, doing things for Roger Marsh on Hangar 1 with the publicity, all of these things. It was really interesting to me to see the way that I was eventually pushed out of the organization, discredited by a handful of people, and some of those people are mentioned in MUFON, The Inside Truth, this just jaw-dropping letter that Phil Leech put out there. And I have to say, I have talked to more than a dozen people in the past week, people that work for MUFON, that have worked for MUFON. They have had similar types of things take place. We have, in this case, in this groundbreaking letter, there is a report, and we'll talk to Phil about this, about HIPAA violations. So not only are you putting your information, personal information out there, but guess what? MUFON's running background checks on you. And guess what? They are going to put your medications in reports. They're going to do things that they really, really shouldn't be doing when they are educating humanity. It is almost like this organization has turned into a cult or a mob and being led by some pretty despicable people who aren't truthful about their own credentials. We'll get into that more. Philip also came out with a rebuttal to the Director of Investigations, Chase Billy Joe Kletsky, and she had some things to say again, probably incriminating herself. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But Philip, I want to say, first of all, thank you for being here, and I have to commend you for the courage that you have had to actually do this. And I know, because have spoken, that you you, like many other people who've resigned in the past week, you want this organization to be successful. You care about it, and you were very disheartened to see what was taking place.
Hi, Erica. Glad to be on the show.
Thank you.
My end result is not to destroy MUFON by no means. Okay, I think MUFON is needed. I wrote this letter, and then my second part of the letter, and all this is based upon what goes on in the upper MUFON levels. Okay, I believe there's plenty of good people in MUFON. I believe they're dedicated, talented. There's just plenty of them. Okay, their numbers are declining, but there's still plenty of good people. I do not want to see MUFON go away. I would like to see some direction changes, maybe a little better grasp of what's going on, within the organization. It had gotten to a point to where, I was aware of I was aware of everything, a lot of things. Okay, maybe not the complete details. There's always somebody hiding something in MUFON, it seems. But I'd heard enough. Nothing in that letter, either one of my two letters I released, there's nothing, absolutely nothing in there that I was not told. Sent an email on, copied on an email on, phone conversation, which I've had transcribed. There's nothing, not one thing. I'd pass a polygraph test if I took one today. Some things need to change. I just don't like the direction of it. Anyway.
No, and thank you. And I mean, that's the thing. And I've always, I've been asked to speak at different MUFON chapters, even after my resignation. And because I care about the people involved. I care about the people who sacrifice their time because they want a better understanding of what we're dealing with. And truly the fault lies with leadership because they are clearly inept at handling conflicts, and they don't take decisive actions to discipline those who are not operating above board. And I have to say too that the board of directors is really sleeping on the job on a lot of different complaints that have come in, and that's unfortunate. When you start looking at a nonprofit and the way things should be running, that you have a lot of questions at the end of the day, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I understand it takes time to get through all of the problems and the complaints and all that. I have no issues with that. I know how businesses ran like that. This isn't really a new problem. I mean, it's just a complaint, another letter, another group of people that have to quit or decide to quit, I guess. And like in my case, it took them a week to finally, I don't know if you'd call fire it, but actually yesterday I was removed from a case assistance group where I couldn't use that to look at other states' cases. And finally today they put me in active as a field investigator. I'm assuming your audience doesn't know everything about MUFON, so let me help just a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's easy for us to talk about MUFON and use different language and, different letters and numbers and all this, and maybe not everyone understands. When I started with MUFON, I went through all the levels state-wise, field investigator, chief investigator, eventually state director. That was during the Ventry Symposium days. Now, I did not resign during that time. I knew about every single one of those issues, actually helped try to solve some of the problems. I heard about MUFON's was in bed with a cult out in California, a rather large cult. Well, I'm totally against that. So I did resign over that. I wrote a letter about that. I did not care for that at all. Mr. Harzan called me. I kind of believed what he told me, I guess, how that came about, the money and donations and the cult. So I went back and I rejoined MUFON. I went back on more of a national level, started working with Roger Marsh. I worked 4.5 months on the Case of Interest book there. I researched all of the cases that's in that book. I created Project Match between NICAP and MUFON, which is very successful and still going today. You can look at that on their website. I have celiac disease, and it kind of kicked in a little bit this last year towards the middle of the year, and I ended up having to take, I don't know, 4 months off, I think, something like that. I was becoming ill. I think I was just stressed, doing too much. So I came back to MUFON, the understanding I was going to, kind of not do a lot, just, find me something to do. And I came up with an idea to create a team to look at incoming cases. So I ended up being a director of the case review team. I had three other people that was in there, very talented individuals. And we was trying to find cases that had value when they come into the system. It's like flipping a coin, unfortunately. I mean, it's not foolproof, but it's a place to start, okay? So, coming back, and then I'd always spoke with Jan, quite a bit personally, I guess. I worked with Roger closely most of last year. And then Chase become involved where we was talking a lot, okay? If not daily, 3 times a day sometimes. So, a lot of information was being shared. So one thing after another just kind of started building up, I was quiet about it. I kept quiet. I argued about some things. Excuse me. And what really did it for me was, and you might find it strange, was I was trying to kickstart the STAR team. The STAR team doesn't exist except by name only. STAR team, each state has a couple members that's in the STAR team, and they're supposed to be talented individuals. If something serious happens or, with evidence, these guys or ladies will come out and do a really good report, investigation. Well, they haven't used a STAR team in 5 years that I know of. It's never been a STAR team case. So I wanted to, my team, since we was looking at incoming cases, I wanted to, if we found a case that had evidence or one crashed or landing, whatever, we could notify that state's director, hey, this is going to be a STAR team case, put somebody on there from the STAR team. We wanted a good report out of it and a good investigation, okay? Jan Harzan approved that entire thing. Chase was aware of it. I told Jan about it. We talked a couple times. And I called Jan to verify because I was going to send a memo out to my team members. And I called Jan. I said, just to verify, we're good to go. He said, yes. Well, I sent my memo out, copied Jan and Chase on it. And Chase sent me back a really pleasant email, basically stop what I was doing. I was incorrect. I'm not going to go into details what all was in there, but pretty clear she wasn't happy. So I got on the phone, talked to their buddy, Jan approved it, told her this and that, and apparently Chase kind of overruled Jan at the time. The next day I called Jan up because I wanted to discuss it some more. I think it was needed. It's something that's needed. It really was. And he said, well, you got to get with the DOI, Director of Investigation. That's Chase. I said, I understand that. I said, Chad, this was a power thing. She wants full control. She wants to notify the state director. And my whole point was my team was covering 24 hours a day, okay? There was somebody looking at something all the time. And I said, well, Christmas morning, you want to be called at 3 a.m. Because we have a case of possible evidence in it. And I was telling Jan this, and he goes, and that's what he told me. He said, Phil, all the years I've been doing this, and he was kind of chuckling. He said, all the years I've been doing this, not one time has anything ever come out of these crashes or landings or evidence. And that was kind of disheartening to me. I know that's a petty thing compared to all the things I put in these letters. But that was right then I realized that everything all of us are doing, it's almost like you didn't care or didn't believe in it. I'm not sure which. And I'm sure he's going to tell you different. Okay. But that's kind of how.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to me, when I hear you say that, I have to just wonder if, in fact, the good cases aren't just, we know they're being funneled somewhere else. I don't know.
Well,
Did you get an inkling?
In my letter. Yeah,
Right.
I addressed that in my letter. Now, there is legit reasons there's cases it's not viewable in the case management system, CMS. Bad words, okay? They got a list of probably 12, 15 bad words, and they are bad words, okay? And some of them are just people advertising their websites, or it could be pornography. It could be anything, okay, that they put on these reports. Those reports are pulled out of the system. If they are found not to be hoaxes, or they're not advertising, buy jeans at this place, right? they're cleaned up and they're put back into the system. So that is one way, or, you know, when you're looking at the case numbers, if there's some missing, there's a legit reason that happens, okay? Now, when you're talking about it, there's MUFON taking cases. On MUFON, it's a SAT team, special assignment team, which Chase used to run. Robert Spearing runs it now, but she's over all these special teams. They do have their own website. They do have, you know, unless you're in that team, you don't get the password. There is cases. I was in there for a week. I didn't like it. I was put in there. I didn't ask. I was put in there. I was in there for a week, and I went to Mr. Arzan and told him, get me the hell out of that team right now, which he did, and I've never been asked to go back to it. So, yes, there is cases in there. Now, is there 1,000 cases? No. There's, you know, I think when I was in there, there was 2 or 3 they was working on. It looked like a big chat room type thing. Chase mentions this because in my first letter, she comes back and then she has her comments, you know, she decides to put out there. And she kind of sticks her foot in her own mouth. She says, well, 8 out of the 12 cover stories on the MUFON Journal was special assignment team cases. Well, again, I looked through all the cases of 2017. So when you look between 7,000 and 8,000 cases, and you see how many there is and how many reports, and knowing that the SAT team, according to Chase, only gets cases that come through the MUFON office, the headquarters, by the phone or in a letter, or there's a state with no one in it to investigate it, something like that. I mean, just flat doesn't come through the system. The SAT team gets these cases. I think the odds are pretty bad that 8 out of 12 would make the cover of the journal out of 8,000 cases that come in a year, okay? I don't see that as even being possible. I mean, good cases are really hard to find. There's a lot of credible witnesses, but ones with evidence and you know, some of these things, I find it so hard to believe that they would end up with that many good cases in 1 year that they could slap them onto a journal cover, okay? That was called into headquarters, and the other 8,000 come in the regular way, and I don't buy it, okay? I mentioned a case that I was very aware of. A UFO supposedly crashed in Mexico. This was the day after Christmas, and Chase started emailing me, telling me about this crash in Mexico. I misunderstood. I thought she said she was busy doing something personal, and I thought she wanted me to get on this to get people moving, and, you know, so I kind of misunderstood. So I called up Steve Hudgens. He's over international MUFON, and Mexico is one of the countries he covers. So I called him up, and he said, well, we have no investigators in Mexico. I said, okay. I said, well, I've got a couple of people on my team. Worst comes to worst, we'll find somebody to work this case, because there was one that came in through the regular channels, through the system. This person reported in Mexico. Well, Chase kept copying me on emails. So she had one of her SAT team, special assignment team members down there in Texas, and the Texas MUFON people, by the way, on the most part, pretty good down there. They're impressive. She had them on this pretty quick. The case that came in sat there for 2 days. I was actually talking with Steve Hudgens on the phone when he was closing it, and it never had been assigned. But yet we have Texas people, MUFON, and these SAT team members working on this case, because supposedly this thing crashed, and there was pieces, and there was people running, picking pieces up, and, you know, there was possible evidence. To this day, there is no case in the CMS system that shows where anyone done anything other than the one Mexico report that was closed by the Director of Investigations International, because it sat there for 2 days and nobody touched it. And he just picked the information only finding on it and closed the case out, which is kind of normal, okay, in some way. I could explain that later, but so I know that case went somewhere. I have no clue, because they quit telling me. I was not copied on emails anymore, but I know something happened somewhere, and it seemed to be pretty important the day it was going on. So, yes, I do think some things are filtered towards their, you know, towards their special assignment team.
And it's interesting, and that's always it's the case. And I know that Elaine Douglass, when she was alive, was looking into that, as were other people, because there were these missing cases and things weren't jiving. And there were also, I bring this up a lot, but when I was state director, I was looking for through cases through the CMS to try to learn anything I could. And I looked for the Chris Bledsoe case, which had been reduced to 2 paragraphs, even though it was a 6-month investigation where they had hours upon hours of video recordings. They took trace evidence. All of these things. It was gone or deleted or hidden. And to me, I don't understand that.
I doubt if it was gone. Yeah,
it was just moved to a different server.
Well, I don't know if that, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't put on there at all, I guess. I'm not aware of that particular case. I really shouldn't comment, I guess, but it's not that difficult to not add something to a case, okay, and still have that information. So, is it all corrupt? No, it's not. Not at all. I'm not saying that at all. I think there's certain people that's doing certain things to benefit themselves. That's what I believe.
Right, absolutely. And I've got a question here. This is a really good one. What is the scoop about security clearances within the STAR team? Amy says it would be unprecedented for the government to grant a clearance to folks in a nonprofit organization. And she says that Chase has never held a clearance as far as I know.
Honest to God, I think most military people do have some type of clearance, whether it's hardly nothing or a whole lot. Okay, so you could always fall back on that. I am unsure about any of that. Whether or not she has a clearance. Now, granting clearances to MUFON, no, I've never heard anything like that. We do have ex-military people, and that's in MUFON. That did hold some extremely high clearance, in whatever Army, Navy, whatever they was in. So, but I've never heard anything about the government giving MUFON any particular person a specific clearance. If that's happening, that's above my pay grade.
Right. And I don't, from what I understand, from what other people have found out and looked into. Chase was an aerobics instructor on base where her husband was stationed for kindergarten through 12th grade children. So that was her.
Yeah, so, all I've ever been told was that she was, I think it was force readiness, something. There was a title for it. And I know if your viewers or you want to take the time to look that title up, I'm pretty sure you ought to be able to figure that out. Okay. I've heard those stories that basically make sure that if it was force readiness, it could be something simple as make sure the troops are physically fit to do their job, I guess. That's kind of how I looked at it at the time. But, I don't know. That's not. Yeah. Well, it sounds good on paper, I think.
Well, and that's the thing. I think it's the constantly evolving bio, which has been interesting, and it's caught some people off guard, and they've been keeping an eye on that. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, because I think the credibility of people who are representing organizations should be questioned. That should be some of the first things that happen. Is people who are representing organizations need to have their qualifications verified. I think personally, that's my own thing, but we've got so much to talk about. I know we're coming in for a break here pretty quick. I'm Erica Lutz here with Phil Leech. We've got a lot more to talk about tonight, so stick around. Catch you on the other side.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
If you love them enough to barely sleep, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Urgent.
KCOR listeners, Lori and Fenton here. Hey, are you ready for Ufo Megacon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatchers, and so much more. Join me at Ufo Megacon March 24th through 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only conference you need to attend this year. Check it out at ufomegacon.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
this is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to go? It's showtime! You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Break this up. Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Oh, welcome back, my friends. I am here with Phil Leech, who was with MUFON. We're still unsure at how that's going to play out, but he wrote a really groundbreaking and an important letter and released it to the public called MUFON, The Inside Truth. He has since written another one, and you can find this online. There have been several blogs written about this. Jack Brewer wrote a blog. Jason Colavito also wrote a blog post about this, and so you can look that up and really get the details, and I have been posting that in my UFO Classified Facebook page. I'll have links to that on my website this evening. This is a very important letter because of the ramifications of things that are mentioned and the violation of HIPAA laws, just the way that this organization is really hiding data, turning into almost a cult-like mob-type organization. And that is unfortunate because there are good people who deserve to be treated with respect, who deserve to be respected as volunteers. And I just think at some point in time when you have complaint after complaint after complaint and leadership or the board of directors doesn't address these things, then there needs to be change. And why do I care about this? I want to clarify this because this affects all of us, because MUFON is the largest volunteer organization in the world. And when MUFON puts something out there that reflects on all of us, and we should care. It is also important to note that just like NICAP, it has been thought that MUFON has been infiltrated by people, and with one of the disclosures in this letter, I would dare say that is probably a pretty good guess, and I want to get into that, Phil. Thank you again for being here and clearing up some of these things, or just giving us a little bit more background information on everything. Let's talk about a new woman that has come into the organization and what her qualifications are.
Okay. I had found out, I don't know, weeks ago, I guess, that they had created, I think it's Chase, created a new team. She's really big on this team thing, by the way. Okay, you can't hear it enough, trust me. This team was called the Strategic Review Team. And because of what my team did, we kept, basically it's just a document of incoming cases. None of your listeners could go online and look at it, okay? But we kept a document to where we picked out the better cases and we followed them through to the end, how well they was done and things like this. So there was no secrecy behind that. Your listeners could go in there and look at all the cases anytime they want, okay? We would just keep our own little list because no one ever looks at the incoming cases. So anyway, this list exists, and we're going to use it for research, make ourselves better. The media side of things, it'd be a little easier to find a good case to put in the journal or on the website. Again, nothing your people couldn't take a look at, online. So she tells me about this new team, the Strategic Review Team. And she wants me to send this list to the director of the Strategic Review Team. And forgive me, her first name's Audrey, I think. I can't remember what her last name is. I'm not even sure I was told that. But anyway, Chase wanted me to give her a call and just introduce myself, as a director of the Case Review Team and kind of touch base with her and this and that. So I gave her a call and spoke with her briefly, I don't know, 5 minutes. Anyway, she began telling me about I don't think there's anybody in the military probably got a higher clearance than she does, unless you're way, way up there. She was telling me she got a counterintelligence for either the Senate or the Congress. She went directly through them. I mean, she quite good military background. I said, well, how much ufology experience do you have? She goes, well, I bought the manual, be a field investigator. I said, I said, so you really don't have ufology background? She said, no, I think she said Chase, but don't hold me to that. She said, I'm reading 2 Richard Dolan books. I said, okay. I said, so you're the director. Yeah. Do what?
Yeah, I just said that about that. That sums it up.
That's all you need to do, I guess, a couple books. But I said, what is it that your team does? And she said, well, we look for patterns and how to best get the MUFON name out there and this and that. And I said, well, isn't that what the MUFON media department does? I said, Roger's going to be pissed off. You step over in his area, right? So anyway, it was a kind of a short conversation. I spoke with Jan immediately about it, my concerns. I said, listen, you got somebody that's she did tell me she lived a couple miles down the road from Chase, and she knew Chase. Now, Chase claims that she's only talked to her a couple times. She really is not a friend. Jan only talked to her once on the phone. That's what he told me. I said, and who decided to make her director over a special team like that? We got plenty of people in MUFON that I'm sure is a little more qualified for that position. Okay, they just need to look for them. My concern, my red flags went up right away. I did not send that particular list out to her. Kind of got my way with that, I guess. So anyway, it was a concern. It's a high-ranking counterintelligence military person that literally just walked into the organization, become a director of a special team.
Well, and that's interesting. And I want to bring up the fact that we all know about Robert Bigelow, who was as a contractor given $22 million funded by the Pentagon for research, and part of that money was used to purchase the MUFON database. And Chase has gone on record saying that the only information he got is the information that was publicly available, which is absolutely not true. Why would you pay, enter into an agreement of almost $1 million if you're getting information you could find out it's just, it's ludicrous. But,
to some extent, it's just crazy because the longer you're with, say you won't join MUFON today, hell, 2 years, 3 years, you might be a chief investigator. It gives you pretty good access to the system. You can look at other states, look at names, addresses, phone numbers. I mean, a field investigator cannot do that. They're kind of limited to their state, okay? But the further up you go, you get, the access. Every step you take, you get a little better access into the system. I went all the way to where I had the same access as Jan Harzan did, okay? So I was able to look at everything in the system and do specific things Jan wanted me to do, okay? But overall, it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, you spend 2-3 years, you find somebody to do that, they can get in there and copy off anything they want. I mean, granted, there's 100-some thousand reports in there. It'd take a while to copy all them, probably. But a lot of data. But is it secure? Not necessarily. I mean, if someone determined enough, I think that they wouldn't have any problem getting what they wanted. I don't think it'd cost $1 billion to do it either.
I think that it is interesting. I just wanted to point out, because you have a lot of, we're all, a lot of us aren't scientists. We're learning and we're doing the best we can. And unfortunately, a lot of times people enter into this with their own personal belief systems. And so what I saw when I was state director were a lot of different people entering or closing cases based on belief systems, not because they were utilizing the scientific method. And so as a database,
there's my whole problem with some of this thing. There is no scientific method. It sounds great. It's good to say. There is no scientific method. MUFON has a lab. I've heard nothing ever anything's ever come out of there. MUFON has a dive team. According to Chase, never been on the first case ever. Okay. They have a couple photographs, people look at photographs and video. They're decent at what they do. But still only a couple people's opinion. They're constantly looking for someone, if we get evidence, what to do with it, So I don't even think they have the resources to do that. It's the scientific part of things. They would have to really read. No one's ever told me if I get a piece of evidence, who to send it to, where does it go, So I don't think they quite have what they portray that they have in the way of skill and capabilities. I think they lost a lot of that over the last couple of years. I mean, there's been some really big names that didn't move on forever, just left, and I think it put a big void right in things. I hope they straighten all that out.
I absolutely hope so too. I mean, Robert Powell was a big loss. We've Rich Hoffman. There are some people that had been in the organization for a long, long time and decided to leave. And it's unfortunate because they, especially Robert, just really kept things grounded and focused on science. And I want to ask you a little bit about the lab that MUFON has.
I don't know much about it, to be honest with you. Somebody in one of the states somewhere, I believe it was a female, started the MUFON lab. I know an email come out where she was asking for samples of different type of minerals and rocks and all this so she could have it in her lab. So, I mean, if that tells you anything right there, that's about how that goes. I don't think the MUFON lab, I think they might be able to do some basic stuff, but when it comes to some of the more serious things, you know, looking at a piece of an evidence, a piece of metal or rock or something, you're going to have to get a lot more expensive equipment than what they got to do any good with it. So I've never seen anything come out of it myself. And so I've been around the block with these people, you know, many different cases that could have evidence. Hopefully they release that stuff, you know, and they claim the MUFON lab found it and all these things. I don't think it's going to happen myself.
Oh,
if it was
no.
going to happen, here's a reason. Here's a good reason. If it was going to happen, why the hell did Chase take this supposed implant through the MUFON lab? Why did we send it with a media company and what's the guy's name?
Luis Elizondo.
Yeah, why would he be the carrier of a piece of evidence that could prove this entire thing, whether it's real or not? We didn't know that, right? So why would Chase choose to send that piece of evidence with him, who's basically in a different type organization that has government background to it, with a media company? Does a media company have their own lab? I don't think so. You know, maybe they can find one, I guess. But would you turn over a piece of evidence that could prove this entire thing? Not to mention something truly extraterrestrial of that importance. Hell, you could sell it to CNN for $1 million. I mean, that's big news. And they just hand it over. Chase told me on the phone, she was upset. She said that, now I don't know if Chase and Jan or which part of that little team there decided this, but she was mad. She was telling me that she didn't believe they'd ever see that implant again, and they wasn't even sure where it was at. She'll tell you different, though.
So, and just to clarify, ATIP is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and that is the leader of ATIP is Luis Elizondo, and that $22 million budget with Bigelow and all of these people were involved. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we know that the MUFON database was sold, and people's personal information given out. Just one of those things. But so tell me the story before we go to break of where this implant came from.
Oh, no, she's kept that pretty quiet, really. I mean, the state that it come out of, I'm not going to say the state it come out of, okay? But the state, I think she did in her rebuttal to me, I think, from my first letter. I'll let her, she's the one likes talking a little too much. Everybody wants to look at me and think that I came out with all this information publicly. I didn't get this information because it was wrote down and thrown out in the street. She's the one telling me, and I guarantee you if she's telling me, she's telling other people too, okay? So she's the one that all the eyes should be on looking at, asking, why are you talking when you should be, being quiet about what's going on, okay? If you're going to play that game, you need to play that game. I just came forward because I was extremely upset when I put it all into one little circle and looked at it. I didn't like any of it. So as for the implant, I know the state it came from. Supposedly that state's supposed to put out a report or something. I'll bet they do, just to cover themselves at this point, because it's kind of a big issue. So I imagine somebody will say something about it. Okay.
And so how did the implant get from that state to Luis Elizondo and to the media company? Who was responsible for that? I
don't know how it got from the state to Chase. Chase had it. She gave it to the media company in Luis. I have no idea. I imagine they was probably careful about doing that. I couldn't see why they wouldn't be getting it to Chase. I don't know if she flew down and got it or how that transpired, but I imagine they took precautions, with something like that. I have no blame to place on those people. Blame lies with Chase with all of this, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and it's it is interesting because, here you've got Jan saying that we've got nothing of merit after all these years and all of these things. But, but then, you've got situations like this, or you hear from different people that were involved during the Bigelow days. And there were some pretty important cases that came in, and there were people that were there, making sure that they had the evidence and the witness testimony. And so it's all very curious. And I think the one thing that really struck me is when you go into MUFON headquarters in Irvine, you've got the Len Stringfield files sitting in a file cabinet, and he was the files were donated to MUFON. They have not been scanned and released to the public, even though this has been going to happen for 10 years. All of this stuff, you've got rows and rows of T-shirts and bags and MUFON paraphernalia. And gosh, I don't know where the equipment is. I don't know where the trace evidence is. I don't know where anything that would suggest that this is an organization that is doing anything other than really focusing on making money. I just thought it was strange.
I would like to see any one of your listeners, I don't care who it is, put a challenge out to them. This year is their 50th year. Have them show you accurate data that they've gathered over 50 years, evidence, good cases, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a handful, just a few. Okay, they can't even use their own statistics because they're inaccurate. There's no way that they're accurate at all. Everybody knows that. Jan Harzan knows that. I've explained it to him in detail after looking at 8,000 freaking cases last year. I say challenge the whole thing. Time to prove it. Show us what you got. Put it out there for public. It's all public viewable, right? Stick it out there and let everybody see. If not, there's a problem somewhere, because in 50 years, it should have been solved 48 years ago.
And that's the thing that I stepped back and looked at this, and I mean, is this an organization that's just been run by inept people? Is there something nefarious going on? Is this an attempt to?
I think it's just money, Eric. I think it's flat out just money. Okay, it's fame and fortune, and that's what it boils down to. You have a whole group. Now, keep in mind, there's under 300 investigators. I'm guessing somewhere in that area. All that hard work all these people are doing is making it to the top, and a select few are benefiting from that. Okay, unfortunately, they're not put. And if it's untrue, let them show the paperwork and show that I'm saying something that's incorrect. Okay, have Rogers, Marsh, Chase, Jan, the board, throw that paperwork out there. It's all public organization. Throw it out there and let's see. The select few are benefiting from all the hard work from everyone else. There needs to be some regulation, a little closer idea. I spoke with 2 board members recently. Very nice guys. They was not against me by any means. Well, that I don't know if they was doing I think basically an investigation on all my accusations. There was no charges. There has been no charges filed against me of any kind. I was demoted to a field investigator, and then today I was kicked out of even doing that. So there was no proper way of getting rid of me, I guess, other than just throwing me out.
And what I would like to know is Chase under review? Is she suspended? Is Jan Harzan being reviewed by the board of directors?
At the least, she should not be in charge at this point. She should be suspended upon investigation. I guess maybe just the same situation they was putting me in. She's the one that spilled the beans on a lot of things, on most of those things, to be honest with you. She's the problem. She told me I went public because I was a little aggravated with the entire thing, okay? After trying to talk with Chase and Jan numerous times about different problems, and it started over the background checks. Weeks ago, we had a case come in that we put on our little list. It could be an important case. It had, decent write-up on it from the witness, this and that. We noted that case. I notified the state director. Well, that case was closed in like 2 days, because we always go back and make sure if they close and we want to see how they end up. Okay, was we right with our, what we was looking at type thing. That case was closed in 2 days. Well, I opened the case up and started looking at it, and there was hardly anything wrote in it. Down at the bottom, little field investigator box that said the case was closed due to the witness being a convicted child molester. And they didn't even contact the witness. And this witness had put a report in a year ago. No one contacted him then either. That he actually wrote that in his witness narrative. So I immediately called up Chase and Jan and said, hey, there's some legal problems here. If this gets out, you people need to clean this up and get that stopped. That did not occur. Weeks went by. I went back in. I thought, okay, I'm going to just look around because it wasn't right. So I looked around that particular state, and I picked maybe 15, 18 cases, somewhere in 15. I found 2 more cases. One of them said that didn't speak with the witness, and these are all closed information only, which tells you something right there. But there was another case that said the witness was a convicted violent criminal. And so I found another one. That's where this, I don't care if the witness give it to them or they got a background check to get. I don't care how they got it. There's probably, 10, 15 medications with side effects. I mean, each one of them's got a huge paragraph below the name of the medicine. Down at the bottom in the field investigator box, just a whole line of them. Okay? That doesn't need to be in there. That's just ludicrous to do something like that. It's a little bit arrogant, too.
And probably illegal.
Really? It could be. It very well could be. So there was a 4th case I didn't even mention in my letter. There was actually a 4th case. They didn't call a witness because he didn't have a valid driver's license. What the hell's that got to do with meeting ET at your back door? I mean, I'm not really sure. But they didn't have anything to do with the witness. He didn't have a valid driver's license. So they're taking it even to extremes. I mean, just low extremes.
And I mean, and yet, I know personally, and we've got like 1 minute to break, but I know personally that there were complaints because somebody was involved in the upper echelon of MUFON who was a convicted felon, but yet nothing was done about that. And so you look at the hypocrisy of all of this and you just think, are you kidding me? And then you look at the fact, and I want to throw something out there, stolen valor. That means you're impersonating a military there's so many things that need to be looked at. What a joke. I'm Erica Luke. Oh, I know, and we've got a lot more to come. So stick around, and trust me, the best is yet to come. I'm Erica Luke here with Phil Leech. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and I'm always happy to be here. I want to give Tina Marie a big shout out, as well as Northern UFOs. Thank you for always posting my show on YouTube. I get letters and a lot of interaction from people all over the world. I have lots of great resources. I do my homework, and I've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes and have collected a considerable amount of evidence on specific things that have taken place in the UFO community, because I believe we deserve better, and that will all be exposed. And I want to just point out that, you look at NICAP, which was an interesting organization. Gordon Lohr has been on here. He was involved with NICAP, and eventually he felt that it was obviously infiltrated by the CIA and deliberately shut down. And I think that what we're seeing here is with MUFON is this has got to be more than just ineptitude. 50 years, like we were talking about with my guest Phil Leech, MUFON is celebrating their 50th anniversary. What do they have to show for it? What did they have to show for the blood, sweat, and tears, for the money, for the personal sacrifices that volunteers have made to support this organization? And in some cases, a lot of these volunteers have been bullied, harassed, discredited. We are talking about a person tonight who is being called on the carpet for some of this abusive bullying type behavior. And I wanted to mention, before I get back to Phil, that it has been reported by a couple different people that Chase Klutsky, back in the Marie Malzahn days, who was former board of director and DOI for MUFON, director of investigations, that Chase had befriended her, and like we all do, we have friends, we let down our guard, we say things, but that Chase had gone to great expense to copy all of her text messages and emails, and Chase came into a board meeting reportedly and showed this to the board of directors in an attempt to discredit Marie. And that's exactly what happened. And so that to me is pretty startling, that type of thing shouldn't be taking place. Again, we're all doing this, we're volunteering, and we deserve the best, and this type of behavior absolutely needs to be called out. Phil Leech has been here talking about some of the distressing issues that MUFON has on its plate right now. Will they do the right thing? Will they call the board of directors? Will they review the executive director and his actions or lack of actions? Will they suspend the director of investigations? Will they look into potential HIPAA violations and much, much more? I mean, there's so many things. This is really not looking good for an organization that should be and could be an incredible organization if it had good leadership. And that's all I've got to say on that one. But Phil Leech wrote two really important documents, and he had a lot of concerns and had worked closely with the executive director and the director of investigations, and found things that were just too disturbing for him and needed to become a whistleblower in order to make change. And I commend that. I think more people should be doing that within this organization. And so I just want to say thank you, Phil, for everything. And I want you to we've got so much to talk about, but talk about a little bit about the international side of things.
Sure. The international MUFON is ran by Steve Hudgens. He does a good job at that. I don't think I'd even want his job. I mean, he covers 150 plus countries. That's just because there's not enough help over on the international side. He does a lot of reports. Okay. But it's kind of weird how this, my concern with this is pretty simple. I created the case review team for MUFON. I wanted to look at incoming cases worldwide. Let's find the good ones, okay? let's make sure they're investigated properly. Nothing secret to it. Just make sure there's a good job, and when the report's done, it looks like it's been a good job. Okay. Well, I spoke with Dave McDonald. He I told him what I was doing. He had one thing he requested was, if it's done an international, make sure it's an international investigator that does it. I said, no problem. That's no big deal. I spoke with Steve Hudgens. He didn't have any issues with the entire team, what we was going to do. Then I was warned that I'm not supposed to contact certain countries. France, England, Canada, there's a list, half a dozen or more of. And I asked why, and I guess they get rather upset if anyone from MUFON, believe it or not, interferes. So the more I looked into this, and I spoke with Chase about this, I think, because I didn't understand it, really. And she kind of said, look at it like this. MUFON sold franchises to these countries. It's like buying a Burger King. They buy the name. These countries run themselves, and they don't even follow MUFON guidelines. They use our CMS system, MUFON CMS system, but you got to be careful. You can't contact them. Somebody's going to get mad. They're going to quit. Like Australia, they ain't heard from nobody in forever down there. The guy was complaining. Okay. But they're selling these franchises, and I don't know how much for. I don't know how MUFON gets that money. I don't know if that's donations or contractual. Maybe that's something else somebody might take a look at. But it's a very strange way of doing business as an organization. Here's our name. You can use it and do whatever you want.
Right. And sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say that it is interesting because, you have to, if you are doing this as a nonprofit, it is my understanding that each state, that these franchises should be registering as a nonprofit and filling out the state's corporate filings and at the very least registering if there is any type of soliciting of funds. And so, I mean, there are states that do that, but there are states that don't. And there are states that are making a great deal of money from bringing in speakers and doing different things. So, I am surprised that there isn't more, like you said, that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, I think the states in the United States, I think they're doing what they can. Some of them have a lot of membership, they have a lot of money. There's other states, smaller ones, that they don't have that money. It would cost more to license something like that per year than what they even take in. So it's kind of not feasible to some extent. Your bigger MUFON chapters, some of the bigger states, they don't have quite the problem that these smaller states would have. I do not understand. Anyway, I made a decision concerning my team that I put a directive out that we would not be dealing with the international side of things because there's just a little too much politics involved there. Steve Hudgens was good to work with. He agreed with what the team's mission was. He had no problem with anything. We talked in detail about it. I got no problem with how Steve runs things over there, and he Steve is Steve, but he was very understanding of what we want to do. He actually thought it was a great idea. I just decided at that point, because I had to tiptoe around way too many things. We wouldn't, my team would not be looking at internet. We did keep them on a list. We just did not. I knew they wasn't being investigated to any great extent because there's not enough people over there to cover that many countries. So it's just maybe something someone needs to ask a question about, and maybe they have a very good answer for the whole thing. It was just a little surprising belonging to an organization that's kind of selling franchises overseas, and people kind of do what they want, So it was strange to hear that, I guess.
Well, and I think the thing that has been really interesting to me is there's no quality control. I mean, if you have a franchise, you have a specific way that you want your brand, your name to be represented, and you from state to state, you can go to one state and they're talking about the apocalypse and that if that abortions are the cause of that they're. This is the reason that people aren't being abducted. You get these crazy people in there that are telling people in the community things that have absolutely nothing to do with the scientific method and the way things should be put out there. And it's like there's, where's the quality control?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems that MUFON has probably is, getting the reports done and getting them done properly, doing a good investigation. Now, granted, a lot of them light in the sky cases, you can't prove anything with that. I mean, could be anything, just because we don't know exactly what that was. Unlikely it's a UFO, Jan Harzan will go around and tell you all day long, 40% of reports that we get are unknown aerial vehicles or unknown others. If that's the case, we got a problem. So 40 out of every 100 reports is from outer space, and we're getting freaking invaded, okay? That's a lot in a year's time. That agreed upon by many people, it's more like between, I say 2 to 3, others say 3 to 5% of the reports are probably actually unknowns out of all of that, and I agree with that percentage. Why they want it to be such a high percentage, I don't know. I think it makes MUFON look like they're not able to do their job properly. If they could manage that number down a little smaller and say, okay, we're pretty sure 12% of these right here are unknown aerial vehicles, that would probably look better to the scientific community or just anyone in general. It would show we're doing a better job, I guess.
Well, that would be good. And I want to just say something that Amy in my chat room said, because we were talking about the foreign chapters, franchises, and she said, bingo, the foreign franchised MUFON is what would provide the CMS data to the U.S. intel agencies, and that is a backdoor. And I think that's a very great point. I could elaborate on that, but I'm not going to. But we ought to just think about that for a minute.
It could be. I mean, if it's not that hard. You get somebody to government, it'd be simple. Get somebody to government and friends with a state director, and here's my password. Look around, look in, see what's there. It wouldn't be that difficult.
But from what I understand, though, there are things in place inside the CMS that will track exactly what somebody does in the CMS, and that people at headquarters are paying attention to where people are going.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, there is people that MUFON headquarters takes a really hard look at that's in the organization, and they track IP addresses, all the MUFON.com email, and, they have capabilities of reading every email that's come through there, so nothing personal usually hits that email too much. Unfortunately, Chase sent me some that was rather personal, which maybe was a mistake, but, there's they monitor things. They don't have a room full of people sitting watching everything that goes on, they'll say, hey, Jan will say, hey, he told me that a few times. Hey, take a look at so-and-so and so-and-so and see what they're doing. A lot of times I wouldn't. Sometimes I would, if I thought it had any value at it whatsoever. But a lot of it was just out of paranoia, because the names I was hearing, them guys was harmless. They wasn't going to do nothing. But it is possible, yes.
And so, not only as a witness are you potentially in harm's way because your personal data is being sold or you're having background checks run on you that could get out to the public and discredit you at a later point in time, but you've also, as a state director or a field investigator, your activities are being monitored like you're a grade schooler or involved in something nefarious. And to me, it's like, wow, there's so many things that are alarming about all of this.
I don't think so. I really, there's no one sitting around 24 hours a day watching people. Okay. If there is, I've never heard of something like that. I do know it's possible to take a look at anyone in the organization as far back as the CMS system will go and look at every single case that they've looked at. It'll tell you the date, the time, their IP address, if they log in with different IP addresses. And that's something that you can look at. But no, do I think there's a room full of people monitoring everybody move on? I do not. That would be a lot of wasted time, okay?
Well, it's
Not much.
clearly an organization that might be, doing things that are a waste of time. I don't know. But the fact is, though, that is taking place.
Well, yeah, it takes place. Yeah, yep, that's a very true statement. Trust me.
Okay.
Never trust no one. It's a very true statement. Okay.
Oh, it's so interesting. And so I have to ask you because, this is a personal thing for me. I've been really trying to get, for the past few years, to get files that have to do with Utah here to get into an archive and to get them so we can have a group of researchers here looking into it and also archive and preserve history. And the Elaine Douglass files were something that I had made very specific arrangements to acquire and went to great lengths. And all of a sudden in November, I know, all of a sudden November, the files have mysteriously...
I listen to your show on Fridays. I'm always in there, People see the name Phil in your little chat room. I'm there. I just don't say nothing, but I'm always listening,
Yeah, that was a pretty...
So I know what you're upset. I know what you're upset about. Yeah.
Yeah, is there, but my gut and my feeling from a conversation that I had with Marilyn, a couple conversations, was that Chase was very, very interested in what was in those files, and that she had made one trip out there a couple years ago when she first learned that I was interested in bringing the files back to Utah. She made a trip out there, went through the files, and then it is my gut feeling that she was directly involved in whatever took place so that I could not bring the files back to Utah and get them preserved. And what do you know anything about that?
That's pretty much true. Chase told me this story. I honest to God, I didn't know much about this story. Even when you was carrying on about it, to be honest with you, I didn't care. I didn't know nothing about it. But Chase actually explained a little bit of this story to me. She did call me and tell me how she made a trip out there. She said there was enough files that it took the way it sounded was many days, okay? But I don't know if that's true. That's what she told me. There was that many files to go through. She knew that you was interested in them because you mentioned it on your radio show. So you kind of ruined yourself there with it, I guess. Maybe you should have been quiet. But she had found out that there was some interest from you with these files. The woman that had them, I'm terrible with names, the woman that had them was...
Marilyn Carlson.
Marilyn, yeah, she was getting older, and she was concerned what would happen to them, at some point. Chase went out there, and it's kind of odd to me that she would go there and not just take the files and, ship them off to MUFON or, help get them shipped off, because I guess there was that many boxes of files, or a huge amount of files. But she went there. Now I asked myself why. I've never been told anything. I'm not sure why anybody would take a trip like that to look through files and spend any length of time. Unless she was concerned about something that was in those files. Okay. And that's my own personal gut feeling that there was something there. She'd make sure she went through and got out or cleaned up a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I know there was some very delicate information in there, according to her. And in her words, could ruin people in MUFON now and ruin people that was not in MUFON now. It could really cause quite the problem. And then I knew you was upset, about the files, that MUFON was in and up with them. They're in Jan's office, I understand. He's got them. They was shipped to him. There was one box, I think, that was left. Chase told me there was one box or something that was left that wasn't shipped, and that Marilyn was going to send that one box off to headquarters. Either she found another box, or I don't recall exactly what that story was. But yes, she had a little something to do with getting those files secured and in the MUFON hands. I spoke with Jan about this numerous times. I knew that you wanted them. I knew that you called and talked to him. And I advised him to turn over some files to the state, whatever state they belong to, okay? Any files had to do with UFOs or UFO reports, make copies, digital copies, and get them sent out, do whatever. So, how that ends up, I don't know. I do know that I was emailed by Chase, and for the life of me, them emails, I got several memory cards, so I need to pull them memory cards up. I save everything to memory cards, and I save everything from phone conversations to emails to things I copy off, you name it, messaging-wise. So I need to get those memory cards out, see if I can find those emails, because there's a lot of stuff on there. I remember one email in particular, there was some discussion about those files. And I kind of know what is titled, so I'm going to have to look. But,
yes, it was from what you mentioned, it was a very unprofessional title, but what else is new?
It was.
I think for me...
It said Erica Pukes on there. Let me just piss you off. It said Erica Pukes. That was the title on the email. And I thought, well, this is just strange, I haven't read it. So there, I'll piss you off and all your listeners even more. So,
well, I mean, this highlights the type of despicable behavior that takes place. And I will say that I specifically called Jan and had 2 different conversations with him, quite lengthy. And Jan is Jan is Canada, so he's going to try to be nice and pretend like nothing's happened and all of this. And I specifically asked him if Chase was involved in this, and he said no. And I just
true.
Yeah, well, I mean, I yes, it is, and I think it's unfortunate because when Marilyn reached out to me, and I believe that she did want to do the right thing to begin with. I mean, she did tell me there's enough stuff here to ruin MUFON or to ruin some people involved. And I told her, pardon?
That's what Chase said. He said that there was plenty in there, and she actually said she hoped Jan never takes the time to go through the files. There's a lot of files. Okay, don't get me wrong. Sounds like there's a lot of files, boxes and boxes of them. And I think it would take an extraordinary amount of time, the way it sounds. It's kept like diaries or notepads. I wrote down all the gossip, just everything that's going on, that probably stuff like what I put in my letter, who knows. But I have no idea what's in there. No one ever told me what's in those files in particular. But apparently it was very important to get those files secured, and which they are. And Chase told me she hopes Jan never takes a look in those files because there's very sensitive information in there that would probably upset him and others.
Wow. Well, I love it. Thank you so much. I'm here with Phil Leech.
I'm going to take a break. About that, so
okay. Well, trust me, one more half an hour segment. The best is yet to come. I'm not kidding. We'll be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The Way Our Girlfriends Walk by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
30 seconds and counting.
Broadcasting to you from another planet, beaming you a world of entertainment.
This is the world-famous KCOR. Now listen live online at KCORradio.com.
I like everything about this station.
When do I listen? Like 24 hours a day.
It's my favorite station. I just love the music. It keeps me going at work.
There is a world outside that which we live in. A realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix. The Paradigm Matrix. Hosted by Willie Miranda. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very room.
The 1 hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole. The Paradigm Matrix explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds. Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes.
Welcome back. I'm Erica Lukes, and I'm happy to be here and happy to have huge support from all over the world. I thank you so much, and all of my listeners in chat, thank you for getting in there and asking good information. I have the most respectful audience in the world, and I appreciate all of you. You can go to ufoclassified.com to view some of my work at Hestelon and different projects I'm doing and all of my travels, and there have been some great stories and things that I will be sharing with you. I also have been working for the past few years on really understanding how intelligence is involved with organizations and in the community, and also looking at some of the types of personalities that are involved in the community, whether they're broken, whether they're delusional, whether they have a narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, we've got so many things going on here, but I think the sad fact of the matter is most of us who get into this have had personal sightings, and we're looking for answers, and we turn to other researchers and organizations because we need a close-knit community so we can work through some of our things. And for me, doing that and turning to MUFON was I've met a lot of wonderful people that I'm still friends with. I support them and love them very dearly, and I want the best for them. But I've also been exposed to people who are not operating either with a full deck or don't have integrity or professional standards. And unfortunately, they are people that are leading an organization and need to be called out. People that have blatantly lied about their bios and misinformed people. And we're talking about the Director of Investigations. I'd be more than happy to have her on the show. I would love to have the opportunity to chat with her, as a matter of fact. So, Chase, if you're listening, feel free to come on the show and you can dispute any of this. That would be great. For me personally, I have documented everything, and I have every email exchange, everything that happened to me, and I have that not only in my computer, but in other locations. So, and I believe that my guest tonight, Phil, has done the same thing, knowing that all of these things are very important. And just like the Elaine Douglass files, this could really be detrimental for people that don't have the best motives or professional standards. So Phil Leech is here with me tonight. Thank you, Phil, for being here and honestly having the fortitude to do the right thing, because there are very few people that actually have the courage to stand up and shine a light on something. And you did that because you care about the subject and you care about the people involved.
You know, it's very difficult. It's difficult sitting here talking to you. I mean, your listeners might not believe that or not. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I committed MUFON suicide, right? Burned all my bridges, you know, got kicked out of the organization apparently. So, you know, it is difficult. You know, I put a lot of time and effort and money into the whole thing, just like everyone else does, you know. So, you know, at least I had a position, I guess, to where I did have a say and where I could, you know, comment on some things, you know, maybe change something. I kind of give that up, I guess, which is good or bad. I'm not sure which that was. You know, I was involved in those tight-knit conversations that was going on. I guess my concern now is there's nobody else really that's up there that's not yes people. They say yes to everything just because they're in fear of their, you know, their directors, fear of their jobs, you know, going to get replaced. Or in Chase's words, if you say the wrong thing or talk to the wrong person, she'll miscommunicate you and you are not going to hear from anyone. So I do feel a little guilty, I guess, to some extent. Jan, believe it or not, is a friend of mine. You know, he makes terrible decisions sometimes. I don't understand it, you know, as much as conversations we have. He's a very nice guy, okay? Just not a great manager when he should be stepping up and getting a handle on what's going on. The board of directors, you know, they can offer suggestions, whatever. But in the end, Jan does have the final say, I believe, and he just needs to step up and understand what's going on. Take a hard look around the whole organization. Just look at the top people and see what's going on. And he can make these changes, and he can make this a good organization if he wants to. If he doesn't, then it's really clear why they're in business, okay? I'm going to say one thing about the media thing with the TV shows. You know, I'm not going to talk anymore. My statement kind of stands in the first letter of what I said. I stand by that. I'll pass a polygraph test anytime you want to give me one. But, you know, during one conversation I had with Chase, we was discussing these TV shows, these different, you know, there's 3 or 4 of them coming along. And her own words to me was that she was extremely concerned because Hangar 1, this is her words, not mine, Hangar 1 really hurt MUFON because they embellished the cases. And her own words to me was that this will be much, much worse. And then I got thinking, I didn't tell her this, but I got thinking, well, why in the hell are you doing some of the acting positions on these TV shows then? If you know this, why are you saying yes? Well, it's fame and fortune, right? If she was that dedicated to the organization, I don't think she could make that decision, you know, that I'll do this, even though it's going to make us look really bad in the end. And she knows it apparently because she told me so, you know, so it's a concern I had, you know, and the rest of it is financial. You know, in the end, none of us will ever prove that. They're not going to throw them records out there, them contracts for everybody to see exactly what's going on.
Well, and I will say that I do think that, you know, all of the finances, I mean, I think if you look at MUFON headquarters, I mean, you've also got MUFON Productions, you've also got MUFON Orange County, you've got lots of different places that the TV show stuff could be going. And I think that deserves good looking into. But you know, for me, I mean, I had...
One more thing,
You what?
She said one more thing. I want to get one more thing if we run out of time. She said that no one wants to work with MUFON. And I asked her why. She said, well, because of Hangar 1 and the way things are ran. And I said, you're kidding. Not, you know, now I don't know if that's where she got that information at. Okay, but she told me no one wants to work with MUFON when it comes to any you know, TV networks. And I said something to Jan about that. I said, you know, Chase told me this. Well, his opinion was that one producer told her that. You know, however, in emails and messages and phone conversations with her and Roger Marsh, they're telling me that these new TV shows that's coming along, you can't wear a MUFON T-shirt or a hat. Can't even use the word MUFON. Nobody wants the word MUFON in their productions. Why in the hell are we giving cases? Why are we giving cases to anyone unless they're just getting a lot of money out of this? All of them. Why are we even agreeing to giving cases to somewhere? All these field investigators that work hard on these cases,
right?
They're just like, we're not going to even say this is a MUFON case.
Right.
Are you, that's a joke.
Well,
So,
and I think
this is their word.
Yeah, and I have to say that it is. I mean, that's mind blowing to me because I know that the History Channel has been playing. They've re-edited Hangar 1 and have made a new show with all of the people that were in Hangar 1. Ben Moss, Tony, Cassidy, all of the people that really did work hard, and we're very proud of what they did, even if the Hangar 1 was distorted or whatever. But so I find that very interesting that these networks are embarrassed of MUFON when their History Channel is playing that.
I told Dan, I said, this is a very good example, really. It was a Sunday. I think it was the first day that Project Blue Book show came out that night. Well, that was my day. Sundays, I would watch cases and let team members have a day off. Okay. So I watch incoming cases all day on Sunday. Well, normally we would get 25, 30 cases on any given day through the winter. The summertime, of course, that number goes up. But, and that's a manageable number for one person to look at through a day. It's not that big a deal. Hell, that Sunday, we got damn near 70 cases. You know why? Because MUFON name was mentioned in these TV shows. In Indiana, they was playing Hangar 1 reruns that wasn't edited. I ended up with 70 cases that day. They kicked my butt that day looking at cases, okay? So I told Jan this. I said, this is very important. You need to get this, get these shows and try to work on this. And Jan's comment was pretty simple. He said, the networks want to base a show around one person. Seems like that's kind of what they're looking at. I don't know if he took that because of the Project Blue Book, the Heineck thing, one person.
Oh, dear.
I don't know if he took that to heart. And I said, you can't find one person in the organization? I said, hell, there's plenty of them out there, Start throwing ideas to people, which I believe he's doing. I do think he has tried to some extent, what he told me. So I can't, blame him for that end. But he did ask me, he said, Phil, I don't understand why MUFON doesn't have its own TV, network shows going. He said, I just don't understand it. And I said, well, I don't understand it either. There's a lot of politics to play with all of that. And I guess I don't understand what happened in, far enough back, I didn't hear all those stories. So I'm only telling you what they're telling me.
Right,
okay?
Right. Well, and I think, looking back historically and understanding some of the dynamics and some of the players that have continually inserted themselves in here to, get other people out of the way so they could get these TV shows. I mean, that's been pretty amazing to see. And it's the same, same person. And that's unfortunate because I know, like I said, I've talked to a dozen people this week that have had the same experiences, the same complaints.
People that answer one of your chat room questions.
Yes,
I see a question in the chat room I'd like to answer. It's from Amy Collins. Says, "Are monies from Jay-Z Knight or Rompus still being donated accepted by MUFON?" Let me give you the official answer for that. This is what Jan told me, and this is I had quit. I had quit MUFON, and then he called me up, and we went through what I was upset over. I kind of believed him, okay? And it's hard for me to believe some people sometimes. I kind of believe what he was telling me. I believe he told me they hold some kind of symposium type thing in the city where this college for this cult thing is located, and they needed a couple speakers. So Jan MUFON sent a couple speakers out there. Jay-Z Knight's organization donated $5,000 or plus to MUFON, which put them in the inner circle. So at one time on the website, you could see their name, okay, on the inner circle. He said it only happened the one time. His hopes was that by leaving them there, they would say, oh, maybe we should donate again type thing. So I don't know if that was true. It sounded true when he was telling it to me, okay? And I did go back to MUFON after he kind of explained that to me. it was a one-time donation for a couple speakers, and that's what he told me. That's as far as I can answer that question.
Interesting. Well, yeah, again, nobody would ever know because the financials for MUFON seem to be hard to obtain. And it is interesting that I know back in the Elaine Douglass days when people tried to request the tax returns that people in the organization wanted to charge a lot of money to get the that information to the public, which shouldn't be the case for a nonprofit, but that I'm just wanted to throw that out there. And so, I mean, Amy also has, what would it take to vote in Phil as the new executive director? I mean, I mean, honestly, what would it take? And I have to ask you, because you, through this whole process, you have, how many people on the board of directors have you had reach out to you?
I've spoke with two board of directors. The lawyer that they, I don't think he's their lawyer, but he is a lawyer, and Rob Switek. Both of them really nice guys. They did call me. We had like I don't know, it was probably 30, 40-minute conversation. They was not attacking me. They was asking me questions, very fair questions. I guess it was their way of doing the investigative part upon my accusations, right? But however, it was kind of strange. Both board members and Jan, I've spoken with both of them, or all of them, all three of them, and it's a regular conversation. And they've asked my thoughts on things, how I would redirect something, would I get rid of this or get rid of that, or I thought it was a very fair conversation. So I was asking my opinion, what would work inside MUFON, which I appreciate that, my chance to voice what I thought. I gave them some ideas that I would do, and they're not that difficult to make happen, okay, that I think would help a lot. And I hope they listened, to some of that information. If they even attempt to do some of it, it's going to improve things.
And I hope so. And I will say that when the things happened with me and the Elaine Douglass files, I sent a letter to all of the MUFON board of directors. I did not have a response from any of them, which to me speaks volumes of the caliber of the people on the board of directors.
I got high respect for Rob. I like Rob.
I like Rob as well. He's been on the show as well, and I like him. He's very intelligent. But I mean,
I think he's a fair man. I think
Yeah, I agree.
We all need to understand these little issues, and I'm calling them little, like background checks, okay? Little stuff like that. That's just organizational cleaning that you need to go straighten up. The board of directors is basically, how does this hurt us or help us when it comes to finances? I mean, that's their major role probably in the whole thing. So, they're going to give their suggestions of how does it help or hurt us in the organization with what's going on. My own opinion, if you're at the top up there and you're making MUFON money, it's going to be difficult. Okay,
you're making MUFON money, and yourself, an $8,000 a month, or Roger Marsh, who's making a considerable amount of money, and so with the media deals, whatever. But any good board of directors, though, I mean, they should be a little bit more involved with this. And if they were more involved, then these things wouldn't be happening. And I do find it interesting that only two people, on the board of directors reached out to you. I mean, what are the others saying about this? Are they...
Jan requested them to talk to me. There was no charges filed against me, and as far as I know, I asked that question recently. There was no charges filed against me. This is more or less Jan saying, you guys need to take a look at what Phil has to say in his letter, I'm sure they're very upset with me. Chase and all of them, they've commented I should have took the high road and went through the board of directors and, made my complaints that way. Unfortunately, I belong to this organization. I can see the writing on the wall and kind of a little bit how things work, I guess. And I did not think, if I'm telling executive director and director of investigations both, hey, listen, stop the damn background checks, and they are agreeing with me, but yet they continue for week after week, and it takes a letter to stop it. It wouldn't done me any good to go to some board and start
No.
bitching and whining and crying.
No,
Okay?
trust me, I with my complaints, I tried to reach out to Dave McDonald, wouldn't respond. I talked to Kathy Martin. I did everything that I could, and it was just spitting in the wind. And so obviously it's something that, the bottom line is nothing will change. And I think that that's unfortunate, and I wish it would, but we'll see what the board of directors decides to do and how they are willing to look into the backgrounds of people who are claiming things that are not true and who are also bullying and intimidating people.
They can still, to be honest with you, they can still make the correct decisions. They can still keep their money. They just need to reorganize a little bit at the top, okay? If they would just reorganize things and get away from how it's done now, okay? There's just too much power base in certain positions. And MUFON's a big organization to some extent, even though it doesn't have a lot of people in it anymore. It's still a big organization, and it's almost too much for any one person. I mean, there's a guy that's a state director over 8 freaking states, okay? Tag team, ERT team. I'm not going to say his name. I got no problem with him in particular. But that just shows you they need to step up, and start looking for help. And I don't want anyone quitting because of me. This is my fight. Anyone listening, wanting to quit, don't quit. Stick right in there. How else are you going to hold them accountable, okay? Because once you quit, like me, they don't give a shit what you got to say, okay? I didn't quit when I put this letter out, okay? I was not a disgruntled employee. That had been fired or quit. I was still there, okay? I still held my title. I put the letter out, So don't quit. Stick right in there. Okay.
But I think, like some of the people that have resigned, though, and I have to just say that they have done that because they've been in the organization for years, and they have continually seen the way that certain people are degrading them and working behind the scenes to take them out. And I think that people are fed up, and I think that people are doing this as a statement, and it's a really important statement. This is not going to be. This
everything being set up, and I've seen that. That's why I said something against certain things. I've seen things being. I told Jan this. I said, "Listen, take a hard look at what's going on. Things are being positioned in the right places, to where the minute you have a malfunction of some kind, you're going to have a problem." Okay. And it is happening that way. I see it. It's happening all the time, okay? You can have somebody that can go in and position people in the right place and get your yes people in place. And I told Jan, just be a little cautious with that. I hope he listens to this show. I hope this will be the 3rd time I told him, okay? But pay attention to this. I'm not saying this because I'm being mean or anything else. I'm being very honest about this. Sometimes you never have employee problems. You only have management problems. So if your employees act up and your managers don't make a mind, okay, you have management problems. Jan has management problems, okay? He needs to fix those management problems, because if you're allowed to get away with doing these things, you're going to just keep doing them. So I hope he steps up and sees what's going on. If he can't do it, make his board of directors step in and be the bad guys that they need to be. Okay.
And I think that's great. I think that some of the people on the board of directors, specifically somebody that I won't name actually, but it's like they are on the team. They are loyal, and that's the word that I've heard time and time again. It's like this isn't a fan club.
I've heard it more times than you have.
I'm sure. And it's like, what does this have to do with that? Is absolutely
I put that in one of my letters. I put in one of my letters. I said, we're all adults. That teamwork, it's great to have teamwork. I'm all for it. I'm for it for field investigators' safety, okay? If there's I don't want anybody going someplace where it could be dangerous to do an investigation. I don't know what the answer to that is. But I'm sick to death of this yay-rah cheerleading crap, okay? I don't need I know how to, I did my job. There was no complaints about what I did. There were no complaints about anything I did in the whole last year in the national side of things. that I know of. Nobody told me anything. I don't need a cheerleader. Everybody's sick of hearing it. Just stop it.
You can't be a cheerleader and work to discredit so many people. I mean, that's so phony. It's ridiculous. So, and there shouldn't be anything about loyalty. This is about doing a job. This is about being professional. This is about having ethical standards and using the scientific method and portraying, putting forth supposedly what this organization is based upon, and running an organization efficiently and making sure that the people that volunteer and pay to collect data that goes Lord knows where, are respected and treated like they count.
I agree. I'm doing what I can. I'm doing what I set out to do when I released my first letter. If they'd like to respond again to any letters, that would be great. Okay. I have plenty more information. That's not a problem. I hope this works out. I really do. I'm not going to have an effect on it after this dies down. I understand that. But at the moment, maybe a few people are listening. There's a lot of what I call mid-level MUFON people.
Right.
Huge talent base, right? Huge.
And I could hear that. I know that the show's coming to an end. I can hear that music, and I hate to cut you off there, but I know. Dang it, we've got so much more. But thank you for doing this. I am so honored to have you on the show, and I look forward to learning more. And I'm glad you've backed up all your data. I know I have, and I think that we can make a positive change. So I am Erica Lukes. Thank you to Phil Leech. We will catch you next week, and stick around for Willie Miranda. I will see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.